Hi, and welcome to the final instalment of The Butterfly Lion by Michael Morpurgo, published by HarperCollins. The Butterfly Lion. We never had children of our own, just the White Prince, and I can tell you, he was enough of a family for anyone. He roamed free in the park, just as we had planned he would, and chased the deer and the rabbits whenever he felt like it. But he never did learn how to kill for himself. You can't teach old lions new tricks. He lived well, on venison mostly, and slept on a sofa on the landing. I wouldn't have him inside our bedroom no matter how often, Bertie asked. You have to draw a line somewhere. Bertie's leg never recovered completely. When it was bad, he often needed a stick, or me, or the lion to lean on. It pained him a lot, particularly when the weather was damp and cold, and he never slept well. On Sundays, the three of us would wander the park together, and he would sit on top of Wood Hill with his arm around his old friend's neck, and I would fly kites. As you know, I've always loved kites, and so it turned out did the lion, who pounced on several of them. As they landed, savaged them and ripped them to pieces. The lion never showed any interest in escaping, and even if he wanted to, the park wall was too high for an old lion to jump. Wherever Bertie went, he wanted to go too. And if ever Bertie went out in the car, then he'd sit by me, by the stove in the kitchen, and watch me with those great amber eyes, listening all the while for the sound of Bertie's car coming up the gravel to the front of our house. The old lion lived to a ripe old age, but he became stiff in the legs and could see very little towards the end. He spent his last days stretched out asleep at Bertie's feet, right where you're sitting now. When he died, we buried him at the bottom of the hill out there. Bertie wanted it that way, so we could always see the spot from the kitchen window. I suggested we plant a tree just in case we forgot where he was. I'll never forget, he said fiercely, never. And besides, he deserves a lot more than a tree. Bertie grieved on for weeks, months after the lion died. There was nothing I could do to cheer him or even console him. He would sit for hours in his room or go off on long walks on his own. He seemed to shut away inside himself, so distant. Try as I did, I could not reach him. Then one day I was in the kitchen here when I saw him hurrying down the hill, waving his stick and shouting for me. "I've got it!" he cried as he came in. "I've got it at last!" He showed me the end of his stick. It was white. "See that, Millie? Chalk. It's chalk underneath, isn't it?" "So?" I said. "You know the famous white horse on the hillside at Uffington, the one they carved out of the chalk 1,000 years ago? That horse never died, did it? It's still alive, isn't it? Well, that's what we're going to do, so he'll never be forgotten. We'll carve the White Prince out on the hillside. He'll be there forever, and he'll be white forever too." "It'll take a bit of time, won't it?" I said. We've got plenty, haven't we?" he replied, and with the same smile he had smiled at me when he was a 10-year-old boy, asking me if he could come back and mend my kite for me. It took the next 20 years to do it. Every spare hour we had, we were up there scraping away spades and trowels. We had buckets and wheelbarrows to carry away the turf and the earth. It was hard back-breaking work, but it was a labour of love. We did it. Bertie and I, we did it together. Paws, claws, tail, mane, until he was whole and perfect in every detail. It was just after we'd finished that the butterflies first came. We noticed that when the sun came out after the rain in the summer, the butterflies, Adonis blues they were, I looked them up, came out to drink from the chalk face, and then the White Prince became a butterfly lion and breathes again like a living creature. So now you know how Bertie's white lion became the White Prince, and how the White Prince became our butterfly lion. And the lion shall lay down with the lamb. The old lady turned to me and smiled. "There," she said, "that's my story." "And what about Bertie?" I knew as I asked that I shouldn't have, but I had to know. "He's dead, dear," the old lady replied. "That's what happens when you get old. It's nothing to worry about. It's lonely though. And that's why I've got Jack. And Bertie, like his lion, lived to a good old age. He's buried there, out there under the hill beside the white lion, the white prince. She looked back at the hill for a moment. And that's where I belong to, she said. She tapped the table with her fingers. Come on, time to go. Back to school with you before they miss you, and you would get yourself into trouble. Wouldn't want that now, would we? She laughed. Do you know, that's just what I told Bertie all those years ago when he ran away from school. You remember? She was on her feet now. Come on, I'll drive you. And don't look so worried. I'll make sure no one sees you. It'll be like you've never been gone. Can I come again? I asked. Of course you can, she said. I may not always be easy to find, but I'll be here. I'll just tidy away the tea things and then we'll go, shall we? It was a very old-fashioned car, black and upright and dignified, with the leathery smell and a whiny engine. She dropped me at the bottom of the school park by the fence. Take care, dear, she said, and be sure to come again, won't you? I'll be expecting you. I will, I replied. I climbed the fence before I turned to wave. By that time the car had gone. To my huge relief, no one had missed me, and best of all, Basher Beaumont was in the sick room. He'd gone down with measles. I just hoped his measles would last a long time, a very long time. All through supper, I could think of nothing but Bertie Andrews and his white lion, stew and dumplings, and then semolina pudding with raspberry jam. Again. It was as I was picking my way through the slimy semolina that I remembered Bertie Andrews had been at this school. Maybe, I thought, maybe he'd sat here and ate slimy semolina just as we did now. I looked up near honours board in the dining room at the names of the boys who'd won scholarships over the years. I looked for Bertie Andrews. He wasn't there. But then I thought, why would he be? Maybe like me, he wasn't brilliant at his schoolwork. Not everyone wins scholarships. Cookie, our cook, my history teacher, Mr. Cook, our history teacher, was sitting beside me at the end of the table. Who were you looking for, Morpurgo? He asked suddenly. Andrews, sir, I said. Bertie Andrews. Andrews. There's an Albert Andrews who won the Victoria Cross in the First World War. Do you mean him? Cookie scraped the bowl clean and licked the back of his spoon. I love raspberry jam. You'll find his name in the chapel under the east window, under the war memorial. But he wasn't killed in the war, you know. He lived down in Strawbridge, that place with the lion on the gateway, just across from the main road. He died maybe 10, 12 years ago, soon after I came to teach here. The only odd boy ever to win, the only old boy ever to win the VC. That's why they put up a memorial plaque to him in the chapel after he died. I remember the day his wife came to unveil it, his widow, I should say. Poor dear, just herself and a dog in that great big place. She died a few months later. Broken heart, they say. You can, you know, die of a broken heart. That house had been empty ever since. No family to take to it. No one wants it. Too big, you see. It's a shame. I said I wanted to be excused to go to the toilet. I hurtled down the passage, out of the courtyard to the chapel. The brass plaque was exactly where Cookie said it was, but hidden by the vase of flowers. I moved the vase to one side. The plaque read, Albert Andrews, VC, born in 1897, died in 1968. An old boy of this school, and the lion shall lie down with the lamb. All night I tried to puzzle it out. Cookie was wrong. He just had to be. I never slept a wink. Adonis Blues. The next afternoon, after games were over, I went over the fence to the bottom of the park, headed up through the Innocents' Breach, across the road, along the wall, and slipped through the iron gateway with the stone lion roaring above me. It was raining a light summer rain. I tried knocking on the front door. No one came. No dog barked. I went round the back and peered in through the kitchen window. The box kite was still there on the kitchen table, and there was no sign of the old lady anywhere. I rattled the kitchen door and knocked louder. Again and again I called out, "Hello? Hello?" And there was no reply. I banged on the window. "Are you there? Are you there?" "We all are," came a voice from behind me. I turned. There was no one there. I was alone on the with the white lion on the hillside. I had imagined it. I climbed the hill and went to sit in the grass above the white lion's mane. I looked down at the great house beneath me. Jackdaws cawed overhead. There was bracken and grass growing out of the gutters around the chimney pots. Some of the windows were boarded up, drain pipes hung loose, rusting. The place was empty, quite empty. The rain suddenly stopped and the sun warmed the back of my neck. The first butterfly landed on my arm. It was blue. Adonis blues, came the voice again, like an echo in my head. Then the sky around me was filled with butterflies, and they were settling to drink on the chalk. Adonis blues, remember? The same voice, a real voice, her voice. And this time I knew it wasn't in my head. "Keep him white for us, there's a dear. We don't want him forgotten, you see. And think of us sometimes, won't you?" "I will," I cried, "I will." And I swear I felt the earth tremble beneath me with the roar of a distant lion. Well, that was The Butterfly Lion. I hope you enjoyed listening to it, and I've read it before, and I completely forgot the ending, so I didn't see that coming. And I do hope you have enjoyed listening to The Butterfly Lion. If you would like more chapter books like The Butterfly Lion read, can you please ask your parents or carers to email your teacher and just let them know that you want some more books like this read, because I don't know about you guys, but I've thoroughly enjoyed reading this book to you. So I hope that you have enjoyed listening to it. Thank you. Bye bye.